words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. It seems only yesterday that we heard that passage read on Christmas morning. Why does it come again so soon? I'm sure the lectionary is saying to us, no, come on, really, concentrate, read it again. You need this because these are the most important verses in Scripture. They're crucial, and yet they don't easily give up their meaning. As you know, John wrote in Greek, the notoriously subtle language, and it just can't be translated properly into English. In English, for instance, word means word, pure and simple, that's it. In Greek, the dictionary has nearly 3 full-size pages of tiny writing of meanings, all of which apply at once. The word, I'll leave the word itself and move on. The word was with God, sitting side by side, you might think, what a comfortable picture. Up in heaven, isn't that lovely? Well, no, I'm afraid the word translated with actually means towards. The word was towards God, as if it was both stationary in the was, but also moving, as in towards, as if it's being pulled like a piece of iron by a magnet, but can't actually move because it's being held. Don't know, the word was God, but who knows what that means? But on it goes. So let's concentrate on something a little easier. Christ was the light that was coming into the world. We know he called himself the light of the world, so that's familiar enough. So what is light? Well, I spoke to the children in the school about light at Candlemas, and please indulge me for a moment. By the way, the bears are there because the light has given them a signal to hibernate. What is light for? I asked, and the pictures give at least a partial answer. But there's a lot more to it than that. If the sun suddenly went out, life on Earth would immediately cease to exist. All life. Conceivably, a few bacteria or tardigrades might be able to hold on in a state of suspended animation, if the word animation has ever been applied to a tardigrade. But that would be all. without light, there's no life, pure and simple. And perhaps with children, that's as far as you'd want to take it. But bear with me a little longer, because this is important. Imagine stumbling upon a tribe in some isolated valley who'd several millennia ago had lost their sense of sight. Light would mean nothing to them, or colour, or even darkness. And space might be interpreted by them differently. Imagine them at the seaside, on the beach. They can walk into the sea, but will they know what they've done? It may be difficult to grasp the concept of moving from A to B if you've never seen A or B or the distance between them. They might think of it differently. They might think, their best scientific theories might say, if you stand up on the beach and simply waggle your legs to and fro 20 times, water suddenly appears. It's one of the laws of nature, they'd say, that seems sometimes to work and sometimes not, and you need to work out hypotheses to explain why. You'd have no concept of the sky or a horizon, even the tops of trees, anything above your head. You wouldn't have a clue. You might have problems sorting out time as well as space if you can't see things changing, if you can't see the sun or the moon or the planets or the stars moving through the sky. We're told there are indeed isolated people in the world even today who have a different view of time from us. As I've told you before, the Hebrews saw the past laid out in front of them, whereas we say the past is behind us. St. Augustine famously said that he understood time until he tried to think about it, when it suddenly became as clear as mud. And that is where our scientists of today basically still are. We talk of the arrow of time going in one direction, but string theorists are happy to talk of time going backwards, sideways, round and round in circles. They describe time as a mental construct. A mental construct. And that sounds like something made up by the mind, something we imagine, but, well, it's more like that our minds manage to cling on to the universe, pulling ourselves laboriously along like some cosmic rack and pinion railway. There's something there in the universe which is able to mesh in with our minds and help that happen. Don't ask me more about that. And if time is a mental construct, then so is everything else. All these sensations that arise on our skin, in our ears, within our mouths, eyes, everywhere. Sensors carry messages to our brains from cells on the surface, and we make as best interpretation of them as we can. But that work is done by our minds. We have 5 senses, and we think we make a pretty good shot of making sense of reality. But what if there were actually 5 or 50 more senses that we don't possess, don't even have any suspicion of the existence of them? We may actually, bless us, be like little beetles living in a deep black cave with absolutely no clue what's really going on. Why am I troubling you with all this? Well, God is mind. God is mind. Who has known the mind of God so as to instruct him? Look it up in Scripture. It's there everywhere. We have the mind of Christ, we're assured. And logos, the word translated word. As I said, it has hundreds of different meanings, including reasoning, explanation, speech, consciousness, wisdom, intelligence, logical thought, plan, and so on. That is what Christ was incarnate. He was those things embodied, and all these meanings are to do with mind. This will be a theme of mine during Lent, so I'm going to stop here. But I'll finish by giving you 3 questions in preparation for Lent. First, do you have a high enough view of your mind? It's all in the mind, we say, as if that meant it was all an illusion. But the mind is what's most really you. How did we manage to turn ourselves inside out like that, so that we think postboxes and buses are more real than the thoughts and impulses inside us? Secondly, do you take good care of your mind? The world feeds so much rubbish into it every day. The world feeds so much rubbish into your mind. Are you keeping yourself well protected in the part of you that's most vulnerable? And thirdly, I'm sorry if this one sounds weird, but the question's inescapable once you start to think about it. Do we all have separate, distinct minds? Separate, distinct consciousness? Or is there one big mind, one big consciousness, within which we take shelter and find our place and our identity in our own little niche? Now, you don't need me to tell you these aren't questions of religion or faith. They're questions for scientists and philosophers. But the agenda for the scientists and the philosophers, as well as for us, the agenda was set for them by Genesis and St. John the Evangelist. As I've said to you many times, science, philosophy and religion can go hand in hand. We don't have to believe one thing in church and one thing out in the world. More on which next week, same time, same place.